masterclass is going to be divided into 3/3. First will be a lecture done by Mr. Szabó, followed by dialogue on themes taken from these films, and afterwards there will be time for Q&A, so time for your questions. So if we can, let's start with the first part.
Something or okay, it's fine. Yeah. So I'm not a really lecture person, and I'm not really sure what I'm going to say. It's true or not. Even to be honest, I don't care about it. I'm telling you something what I think, and if you don't like it, we can discuss. The first question what I asked myself, what is unique in filmmaking? Why to do films? Why not to write novels or paint or create music? If you would like to express yourself, there are a lot of possibilities. Does film, better to say motion picture, because today film doesn't exist, today there are so many forms, from television to internet, so it's better to use this new expression, motion picture. Does motion picture something unique? What you cannot express with some other art of communication form. You cannot express with literature, you cannot express with words, you cannot express with painting, or even you cannot express on the stage with actors in a theater. And thinking about this, there are a lot of possible answers. But my personal answer is that motion picture can do only one thing, what you cannot express with another communication form. And this is a close-up of a human face with changing ideas, changing emotions. So not a face painted by the best painters on the history of art, like Rembrandt or Franz Hals or Tiziano, but a living face, to see how an idea was born in front of us, or how an emotion was born in front of us and changed into another emotions. So not a beautiful face of a beautiful young girl expressing love, or not a beautiful face of a young girl expressing jealousy, but a beautiful face of a young girl expressing love, which turned into jealousy because something happened. Somebody's passing by, or I don't know, something happened, and the emotion changed and the expression changed. So motion picture, emotions, they move. Better to say a close-up. This is the only thing what you cannot describe. Of course, they are words, and you can tell, but you cannot see, or you cannot with words you cannot tell a special smile. You cannot tell the smile of Audrey Hepburn, or you cannot tell the smile of Marilyn Monroe, or James Fonda, or Jana Prajova. doesn't matter. You cannot tell because they are unique. You can see it only, and you can be moved by this smile. You cannot tell how an idea was born. You can see only. Even you cannot paint. So the close-up is to me the most important and the most unique thing in filmmaking. And if it's true, then I have to say that the face belonged to somebody. And if we're speaking about a film which is telling a story, then this somebody is an actor. Of course, it can be a documentary, and we can see a human face, and we can see the emotions behind the human face too. Okay, let's think first about this possibility. Can we really see what a face can express, and can we learn from it? I think you have seen also, as I have seen several times on television, some documentaries made by Leni Riefenstahl on Adolf Hitler. She made a long documentary called Triumph des Willens about the Nazi party days in Nuremberg in the 30s. And having those party days, Hitler gave 3 different speeches. And every speech starts with somebody who introduced Adolf Hitler. And now our Führer, Adolf Hitler. And then Hitler is coming, and Hitler is on the stage, but he doesn't start to speak. He is waiting. And the close-up shows how he tried to find out what the audience need. And sometimes he starts to speak shouting, and then he's coming back later. And sometimes he starts very low, and then he's lifting his voice. It depends what he's getting from the audience, and you can see, seeing this close-up, that this man is waiting like a serpent to get the audience. And it's fantastic to see, and I don't understand that at this period nobody has seen how dangerous this man is, because those close-ups, they showed the danger in his eyes. His eyes, his close-up showed that this man would like to seduce the people. That's all. Even rape the people. He is raping the audience, and it's visible that he would like to rape, you know, like a macho or like a serpent, like an animal. Or we can take another example. I have seen a documentary on Joseph Stalin giving a speech on the Party Congress 1930, I don't remember exactly in which year, in Moscow at the Bolshoi Theater. 1,000 people were listening. And he was standing on a stage, he spoke, and next to him was a glass of water. And having his speech, it's a very long shot, it's a 10-minute long shot. having this 10-minute long shot, he is fighting with a glass of water. He says one word, and he would like to, and then you can see that he needs to drink. Sometimes he's drinking, sometimes he's not allowing himself to drink. So you can see that his hands moving into the direction, but he's taking it back. So it's visible, having this 10-minute long shot, that this man is psychologically a disturbed, sick man. And nobody has seen the danger that this man is really near to be crazy. It's very interesting. Today it's easier. Today people are speaking in the television, and if the face is not good enough, they are not voting for him. At the beginning of the last century, it was important that somebody who would like to reach a special audience, they had to write good article. Then later it was important to have the talent to speak, because every speech was broadcasted by the radio. And today, if somebody is not a television personality, which means that the face is not interesting enough, or the face is not charismatic enough, it doesn't work. It doesn't matter how clever, how educated, how good somebody is, what kind of good ideas somebody has, what somebody would like to give to the society. If he is not a good television personality, that the audience likes somebody else who is not good enough, who is not interesting enough, who is not educated enough, but looks good in the television. And it's that. But coming back to the feature films, there are some actors, we call them stars. They are important to the audience. Stars are not chosen by producers or bank presidents or people that have the money, they financing films. It's rubbish. Maybe short-term stars, yes. But the real long-term stars are chosen only by the audience, and it's really important to see the history of the film, how a face became important for a special period of the history. And even we can think about why is this face important, and why especially in this period, and why the changes that we suddenly, although we loved one face, suddenly we turned away and we found another face which became important for us. I'm giving you some example. Let's start with ladies. Szabó was probably one of the most important women for the world audience, for everybody. But when? Exactly in a period, in the 30s, when a lot of people, because a lot of Hitler and because other political movement, the people, they thought that having a uniform is better, they can save themselves behind the uniform and being in a group. Not only in Germany, but against Germany, even in America too, everywhere, all over the world. It was important to belong to a group, to be behind other people. to be saved, to have the feeling to be saved. And probably Greta Garbo was the only person who, on the screen, expressed only with her face, only with her talent, she was born so, expressed a dignity. She was always herself. This is what everybody wanted, but the people afraid to show it. So the wish was, or the feeling of security was expressed by this woman. We arrived near to the war, and another woman became a little bit more important, who was maybe the danger herself, the dance on the volcano, the danger, Marlene Dietrich. And after the Second World War, when the people experienced that their life is nothing, only a tiny metal bullet or a bomb and everything is over. So it's better to enjoy life. It's better to be happy for the sunshine and to eat and drink and make love. A new woman became more important for the world audience. A woman who represented the life, the body, Marilyn Monroe. And slowly, when a new movement started against the war, I'm thinking now on the Vietnam War and etc. And some women liberation movement started and fighted together. These people, they fighted against the war. Funny thing, but some boyish girls in blue jeans and short hair, they carried the flags of the women liberation movement and the anti-war movement, became more important to the audience, and represented the new mentality. Jane Fonda and Vanessa Redgrave. And when all those movements became successful, and some women became president of governments and bank presidents and head of televisions, and I don't know. So they showed us that the women, they can be strong and cold like men. We had a new group of women. They were able to use their machine gun and their coldness, being a bank president or even a mafioso. So on one side catching the nerve, or on the other hand fade that away. Go back to the men. Before the Second World War, we have fantastic cowboys. They were able to fight against everything which is bad, and they were always on the side of the poor people, the small people, the good people. I can mention the name, but you can mention also the name of Clark Gable and Robert Taylor and etc. But when those people went to the war, crossed the ocean, fought against the Germans and won and learned to kill, and then after the war they went back and they couldn't find their place in the society, but because all the problems what they had, they couldn't find a solution with machine guns, what they had during the war. We had a new star, a guy full of inferiority complexes. You have never seen his eyes. A guy who was never happy in the society, James Dean. And then slowly, intellectual people and university professors took over the power and became very important. people all over the world, and even in the United States, Secretary of States came from University Cathedral. And the new face became important for the audience, the face of a fine university professor, Anthony Perkins. And then President Kennedy was killed, and Martin Luther King was killed, and Robert Kennedy was killed, and the audience realized that maybe those eggheads or intellectuals, they cannot save us, and they found people, they were good on the cathedral, they were good as university professors, but they were good as boxers too. Al Pacino, Dustin Hoffman, Gene Hackman. And when the new period of war started, we learned a new face from the distance, from a wide shot, a cold killer, but from a close-up, a lonely boy who was standing with his machine gun so alone, like a little boy looking for a friend at the railway station, Sylvester Stallone. And later, having the new computer period, we learned to be interested in a man who looks like a computer-created person, not a really human being, because he's not to kill, he's not to change, he's living forever. Arnold Schwarzenegger. So it's very funny or very interesting to see, but in every decade, or better to say, after every interesting or important political or economical changes, there are changes on the screen, and the decision is not made by producers or film directors or bank presidents. No. You have seen this new face, and you decided to go again and see him in his new film. You going and buying a ticket. It's your choice, because the face giving you a kind of feeling of security. You would like to have this male face or woman face as your lover. You would like to have this face as your friend who can save you. This is very interesting, and that's why it's so peculiar, the radiant power of motion picture. How this power work? Very interesting. We can take an example. For example, Charlie Chaplin. If I mention this name, Charlie Chaplin, then you have a picture in your mind. And this picture is, I can describe it very precisely, because you have the same picture as I have. A little man, with a small moustache, with a hat, with a jacket, which one is smaller, what he needs. It is a white, brand new, fine washed shirt with a tie, with a trouser which is longer, and a shoe which is bigger, and has a cane, of course. if you think about everything what I just described, then you ask, what is this peculiar hat? And you know that this hat is from the London city. And why is this white shirt and tie? What kind of past this gentleman has? And why so shirt and all this jacket? And why so long, this trouser? And why so big the shoes? So you see somebody, not speaking about a king, so you see somebody who had a past and even can use it and show this kind of past. Only he is now very poor, and everything what he has is given by somebody else. So the whole history of this man, his whole social and historical background is to see in the first second. And you understand it. You understand that this man represents your story. It's very, very important to be really precise. If we're speaking about those people, they can represent a huge part of the audience. But important also that a picture, like for example this picture what I just described about Chaplin, a picture how important is if the picture touched the audience. Another example, in the 60s, I think at the beginning of the 70s, was a Commonwealth conference in London, which means that all the prime ministers and ministers of foreign affairs, they belonged to the former British Empire, came together, and the Queen of England gave a great reception. So the Queen arrived and shook hands with everybody, with every prime minister and etc. Between the people was the Canadian prime minister at this time, Monsieur Trudeau, very handsome, very tall man. And when the Queen shook hands with him and went, he thought that the ceremony is for him over, and only to make fun, he made a pirouette. Imagine the Canadian Prime Minister who is standing officially in the Buckingham Palace, and because the Queen bent over, made a pirouette. But accidentally, the television was live on him. So it was broadcasted live how the Prime Minister of Canada, after the Queen shook hands with him, made a pirouette. 20 years later, as an old man, he died, passed away in his hometown in Canada. And his coffin was brought by train, by an open train, to the main city. And on the way, going through every village and town, thousands and thousands, or maybe a million, people were standing. And when the train passed by, everybody, all the Canadians made a pirouette. to show the independence of Canada. Because this stupid, tiny movement, only because it was, made by, to be honest, by a little boy from an elementary school. It was a stupid joke by him, and he never imagined that it will be broadcasted. He was funny and made a joke. But this tiny joke became the symbol of a country, only because it was broadcasted, and became the symbol of independence, became the symbol of being different, having our own dignity and own power. So this is the power of the motion picture. And I think it's important to know. But the picture can be misused also by people using it. I remember I was directing an opera in Vienna, the Vienna Opera House, and it was so at the period of the Balkan War, second part of the 80s. And after the rehearsal, I went home to my hotel, and I was watching television. And suddenly I have seen a documentary footage about a street of Sarajevo on which people, they were standing in a long queue in front of for a bakery, and somebody started to shoot the people and killed 50 people. They were lying on the trottoir, on the ground, full of blood. And it was told that the Bosnian people, the Bosnian fighters, partisans, they killed Serbian people. They were standing in front of a bakery. It was really terrible to see the pictures. And then later I leave my hotel room and went down to eat a sausage, like everybody is doing after seeing something on the television. So went back an hour later. I surfed for another television channel, and suddenly, seeing another television channel, I have seen the same footage, but exactly the same footage, the same cuts, exactly the same, but it was told that the Serbian people killed the Bosnian people. They were standing on a long queue. So the question was to me, what is true? The pictures, they were real. So I learned slowly that the filmed reality sometimes has nothing to do with the truth. And a documentary documents only the person who is doing the shot, the person's opinion who is doing the shot. Maybe there are some people who are not agree. But I'm asking always myself, okay, fine, but why this part and not this part? Why this part and not this part? So if I am invited by a Czech television channel to show that this festival organizing masterclasses, but the people are not really interested, then I'm coming and I can show this place, and a very nice lady is sitting there, and on the edge another lady, and nobody. Is it real? Did I ask somebody to say up and leave? No. this is the reality. Or if my job, and I can show the other, you're behind the gentleman in yellow jacket, I can show the other part, which is also empty, and then basta. And I did my job, and I will be paid for it. But if the television asks me to show how fantastic is this festival, and the master classes are full and enormous interest, and etc., then I'm going to show this part, and I did my job. The question is, what I would like to express with a kind of reality. So there is the truth behind the reality. So filmmaking is a very peculiar thing. Even feature film is, maybe it's very dangerous what I'm going to say. Feature film telling you just at the beginning that this is a lie. You have a title, and then you have a name of list of actors they acting. So it's a fairy tale. And you can accept it or not, because it's a fairy tale. So if I'm following my way, then it's more correct. Of course, you can manipulate people, and we learned, I can mention the title, they manipulated audience on the worst way with feature films, of course. But generally to say, the fairy tale has more chance to be near to the truth. The other question, what I would like to give you as a discussion subject, this is the difference between the American and the European film. Because nowadays we feel that the European film has a lot of troubles, and we have less and less audience, and even we have less and less films, they are distributed, they can find distributors, or less and less film, they can find producers and money in Europe. It was a period in our life, especially the end of 50s and the 60s and the 70s, in which the most important people for the world cinema audience, they were European faces, from Marcello Mastroianni to the actors of Ingmar Bergman, so Liv Ullmann and Catherine Deneuve and Monica Vitti and Alain Delon and Michel Piccoli and Belmondo. And if you ask the cinema audience today, it's quite difficult to find a European face who is good enough to invite people to see films. New faces, they can invite people to see films. Why? What is it? Why is that the new audience would like to see American faces? And even only American faces. What is the difference between American films and European films today? I'm speaking about the new films. And I think the difference is very simple. If an artist would like to tell a story, a good story, then the stories should be honest. So the stories, they are based on their own experiences. And the European experiences, thinking about the last century, which was the worst, maybe one of the worst century in the mankind, First War, Second World War, Holocaust, Balkan War, and I can mention a lot of things. They destroyed, you know, millions and millions of life. So if you would like to tell stories about all those experiences, your stories and your protagonists, your heroes, they will be people, they are losers. We lost everything. We lost wars, we lost revolutions, even the revolutions they won. We realized later that they are not so as we wished or as we hoped. So our stories, and if you're thinking about the film history, our stories, our great stories, are always, and even our great films, are always stories about losers. And the Americans, they're telling stories only about winners. And the new audience, the young audience, they don't want to be represented by losers. They would like to be on the side of winners. It's maybe a tiny bit superficial, but if you try to think about the films and you take the films alone, you will see that it's something reality in it. So I think I gave you some questions to discuss. Thank you.
Do you have got some questions right now you would like to ask right now? If not, we will continue with the discussion and you can think of your questions and ask later. I'd like to know whether you think of this history of faces when casting for your own films. Do you go through this? Are you thinking about this?
I am always looking for actors. They are powerful. They are charismatic. Their face can represent a part of the audience. There are a lot of great actors. I mentioned, I think one day before yesterday, having a Q&A. There are a lot of great, fantastic actors in fantastic national theaters. They are good for the best and the most important roles. And on the screen, they are not interesting enough. And there are people, they may be not so good on stage. And they can represent us. Grete Garbo never did a theater. Michel Simon, one of the greatest French actors, Atalante, for example, never did a great theater role. But the power, the human power, what they had, the radiant power and the energy, what they expressed. And when they had a good antagonist and the energy changes between the people, they were fantastic. And this is important on screen. You have somebody who has to wake up the interest at the beginning of the film. Let's say after 5 minutes, you have to be interested on this face. And you have to keep this interest until the end of the film. So 1 hour, 30 minutes long, you have to keep the interest. You know? Try it. Stood up. And ask the audience, how long am I interesting for you? You know? And after 30 seconds, they will say, thank you, fine.
I don't
it's
want
enough. You know, so it's something. It's very, very important to have this radiant power to surprise always the audience, to show something new, to show something which is good enough for the audience being represented by this human face. And as I told you before, for a special period, this is very important. So I'm looking for people, they have this radiant power. Women or man doesn't matter, but they have to have this intense power. They have to surprise me always. Even they have to surprise us. This is what I learned from Klaus Maria Brandauer, for example. He told to me, I'm happy if I can surprise myself. So he's doing something, having the shot, he's doing something which is brand new to him. And if he is surprised, then the partners are surprised too. So everybody is in life and the scene starts to burn. This is important.
And is it rather personal meeting or cooperation with the DOP when searching for this importance of the face?
No, it's my job.
So it's kind of close up in a personal meeting?
It's a personal meeting. I don't know, so it's happened to me several times that I did a film with somebody and the work was so nice and the experience was so great that I decided to write a screenplay especially for this person. I wrote a screenplay for 2 new screenplays for Brandauer. I wrote 5 screenplays to a Hungarian young gentleman. I wrote 2 screenplays for a Hungarian lady. I wrote a screenplay for a Dutch lady. So it's I learn them, I know them, and then I'm working for them. It's important to me that I would like to love the people. They are on the other side of the camera, they are in front of the camera, and they have to feel that I love them. So it means that they have to have 100% trust that they are free to try everything because their brother or friend or grandfather is standing behind the camera, and if somebody doesn't work, then he will say, or etc. It's a question of trust, like in the circus. They're flying and they know that I'm standing downstairs and it doesn't matter what's happened. They are not in danger.
So you, as a director, feel yourself mainly as a representative of an audience?
Yeah, I am audience number 1. I'm standing behind the camera and representing the audience, and if I don't like something, then I'm sure that the audience will hate the thing. And if I like something, then I'm not sure that the audience will like it.
You were speaking about changing audience preferences, changing faces during the 20th century. Many of your films are showing faces and characters in these changing eras, from Mephisto or Colonel Redder to Emma and Bebe. So is this the same kind of interest you have? The changing eras, what does it with the human face when the era, politics and so on changes?
It's a very good and very dangerous question. My answer is probably that's why the most important leading characters in my films are ambivalent characters. So faces, you don't know exactly at the beginning what to do with them, to love them or to hate them. And during the screening sometimes you have to have a feeling, yes, it's me. And then 5 seconds later you hate the guy and you will say, no, it's not me, no, please, no, it's not me. Forget this guy. and then 10 minutes later, it's me. So this crazy ambivalence is important to me.
There is a statement in Colonel Riddle that is, you want too much from yourself. And this is also a thing that characterizes many of your characters, right?
It's interesting that you remember on this line. I really forgot this line.
I wrote it in cinema a few days ago.
Probably yes, because a lot of characters in my films, they would like to please the society. They would like to please the world around them, because they have a feeling that they can reach the feeling of security if they please the world around them. And this, and maybe you're right. Yeah.
Mostly they want both power and creativity and recognition, and all of it together.
Most of them are artists, because showing the artist is the easiest way to show the illness of society, because artists are sensitive, and if you show artists, then they can show on their face, the problems of the society. That's why they are conductors and actors, and so people like this in my films, maybe. But to be honest, I don't like to analyze myself. I like more to analyze other filmmakers. It's a nicer job,
So let's analyze a little bit. Lajos Koltai, have you been discussing with him Imre Kertész and things like that?
No, he did he directed a film a couple of years ago because he wanted to be a film director. Lajos Koltai is a cinematographer who did all my films in the last 30 years or 35 years, except the last one, because he became a film director. He directed a film based on Imre Kertész, Faceless. No, it was his film. We never discussed it.
You are doing also stage directing, but it's mostly opera, right?
Yes.
So that's because you can't have this close up in theater,
No.
or because you like music?
No, because some opera directors and conductors, they thought that maybe film directors can change a tiny bit the old-fashioned operas, and a lot of opera directors invited filmmakers at this period, and I was one of them who was invited. And at the beginning, it was very difficult to me, because I had to learn, if you would like to direct, let's say, a Wagner opera or a Verdi, you have to learn all the Wagner and all the Verdi, because the singers, they ask questions. So it was not easy, but I enjoyed it very much to learn, that's all. And I love music, I love classical music. I am really sick of this, so that I'm sitting in a taxi cab, even in this town, and it's this loud music in the taxi, in the department shop, in the restaurant, in the hotel, reception. Everywhere is this loud and to me not really acceptable loud music. So I like classical music.
How do you think about colors of your films? For example, Love Film, for me, it's kind of blue film in my memory. Other films are much darker. How do you think, and how do you evolve these concepts of colors in your films?
Love Film was the first color film that we did, and it was a school for us. I remember that I did a wide shot one day on the leading lady, and it was okay. And next day, seeing the rushes, I couldn't find the lady on the shot. So I was looking, and finally, this lot of difficulties, I found him, in the wide shot. Because having a wide shot, in the middle of the wide shot was an orange colored shop door, and seeing the shot, the first really important color was this orange color. So I was watching the orange color, and I lost the actress. So to learn how color film works after black and white film, it was not easy, but we learned it slowly.
Do you consider all your films being personal for you, or are there some exceptional, maybe Father or Sunshine, like more personal for you than others?
The film is personal. I can find in every film very personal things. They are important, or they move me to do the film. My most personal film is Father, of course. But other films are personal too, maybe not so like this one.
If it's not too much analyzing for you, I would like to know some things about Dear Emma, Sweet Emma, Dear Bebe. There are intertitles in the film. Why have you decided for it? Because your motto was always to be like clear and understandable, not to see the form much, even though it's not transparent, of course. So why have you decided for these intertitles?
Do you have two names, you mean?
Sorry?
You have two names?
No, in the film. The titles inside the film.
To separate, the time, and to make clear, a little bit more clear what is going on. Yeah.
So all the work is focused on to be clear, to be understandable.
I think this is my only wish. I am not a film director who would like to have his own style. I don't care about the style. Some people, and even film critics or journalists, ask me about the style and ask me what is an Istvána Szabó film, and I'm kind of a bit confused about it, because to be honest, I never did in my life an Istvána Szabó film, and I never would like to do an Istvána Szabó film in my life. I would like to tell stories, and one story needs this kind of filmmaking, and another story needs those kind of filmmaking. My only wish is to tell a story first, understandable and clear to the audience. If in the cinema or front of the television somebody is turning into his or her partner and asking, "Honey, what did she say?" and an answer is coming, then I lost 20 or 30 seconds, because they are not listening to the film, they're discussing something, so I have to be clear, and I have to be focused, and the audience has to follow the thing what I wish to show to them. And on one hand, and on the other hand, and maybe some film buffs, they're going to be angry, but I have to tell you honestly that I would like to do films that entertain the audience. I'm sorry to say. so a little bit entertain the audience. So I would like to wake up the interest at the beginning of the screening, and I would like to keep this interest until the end, because I learned from Buñuel, a film can be everything, only not boring. And if a scene is boring, doesn't matter how important is it, I'm cutting out. So in the editing room, which is one of the most beautiful parts of the filmmaking, I'm watching my work, and if I have a feeling that something is too slow or something is not really interesting enough, on a very sad way, I say goodbye to the shot, to the scene, to the line. Doesn't matter, because I would like to keep the interest of the audience. This is my job, to entertain the audience. So I hate boring films. It can be that on the cultural level or on the artistic level, a boring film is very, very important, and the film in which in the cinema one person is sitting is maybe more important as another film, in which one is loved by the audience. It can be, but I am sorry to say I love the audience. I really love the audience, and I was the latest film what we did with my friends called The Door, and it was showed at the Harvey Film Festival in a small room, so there were only 1,500 seats, and they were maybe 200, 300 people. They were sitting, you know, on the staircase, and then after 20 minutes of screaming, the audience started to applaud, and I was enormously happy. I know it's not nice. I know it has nothing to do with art, and especially not with film art, but I was really happy.
The Door will be screened here as a closing film, so I could add some more questions to this film, to your newest film. For me, it's interesting how it works with a theme, with a book called The Door by Szabó, because it sticks quite a lot to the dialogues that are in the book, but it changes the sequence of the scenes and flash forwards and flashbacks. So you keep the dialogues, but you change the order, right?
I don't remember. When I got this possibility to do a film based on this novel, I sat down and invited a colleague of mine to come with me, and we wrote the screenplay. And our aim was to be faithful to the message of the writer and faithful to the characters showed in this, or described in this novel. But of course, the film is an absolutely different media, so we had to turn every idea of Szabó into pictures. Sometimes we kept, the dialogue, sometimes not. How to say? I am sure that you like literature, and you all know, let's say, Tolstoy's fantastic novel, War and the Peace. So you know the characters. And reading about Natasha Rostova or reading about Pierre Bezalov, you all have an idea. and you all can create a picture. Of course, your own personal picture is colored by the people that you know. Although Natasha Rostova is very precisely described by Tolstoy, the color of her hair, eyes, skin, everything is very precisely described. But the face, what you created based on Tolstoy, has maybe a part of your mother face, or your lover face, or your sister face, or I don't know. So it's your creation, the face is your creation. I know that I have to invite Audrey Hepburn. And the face of Audrey Hepburn absolutely not corresponded, absolutely different from your and your and your and yours face. So Audrey Hepburn has to start to fight against your vision. And this is important. So we have to create somebody who can represent the imagination of everybody. And this is important.
Audrey Hepburn really starred The War and Peace, the American adaptation of this
That's why I use this example.
And you like it? Is it an example you like?
I take an example. I took an example. Yeah, I don't know. If you ask me what I like, that I like Ingrid Bergman in Casablanca and Humphrey Bogart. Those are the people I like.
Wind and rain in the end of the door changes for sun, which is not in the book as I searched for. Would you, or did you want to make it more positive, more lighthearted in the end?
No, I wanted to show the power of eminence. I wanted to show that she has something what is still in life, although she passed away, but her power and this something magic is still in life, is with us. That's all.
Okay, I think now it's time for the Q&A part. So if you got any question, please just stand up. If you won't be here enough, I will repeat it in the microphone. So there's the first question, I think.
Oh, thank you for the question. It's very, very interesting. It's true that in the 30s, when the Hungarian film became very, very popular, it means that a lot of simple people went to see Hungarian comedies. Actors, they were the most important for the audience. They were, how to say in English, petit bourgeois, small people. Yeah, they represented the audience. So you mentioned the name of Gyula Kabos, who was a great, fantastic, great actor and a great comedian. A kind of maybe it's hard to say, a kind of Woody Allen of the period of the 30s, a bourgeois, little bourgeois part of kind of Woody Allen. He was very, very important. And later, when the nationalism started a little bit and became more and more powerful, some people, they represented more the Hungarian aristocracy, Javor Pál, and even Karadi Katalin became important for the audience. But after the Second World War, and after the communism started, some very simple peasant, children from poor peasant, became actors, and they were fantastic. I mean Mari Törőcsik, and I mean Imre Sós or Adam Szirtes, fantastic people. They represented the power of the nature, and they were enormously honest. So the changes was visible in the Hungarian cinema too. Thank you for the question. But it's very easy to see, analyzing the Italian cinema, it's very easy to see analyzing, the French cinema. What happened with the French audience, that from Gerard Philippe, who had a beautiful face, and he was nice and handsome, slowly Belmondo became more important with his boxer face, and then the coldness of Alain Delon, and then the cynicism of Michel Piccoli. How changed the society? There's somebody from Paris here sitting in front of me, maybe you can answer. So what's happened with the French audience, that they arrived from Gerard Philippe, the nicest gentleness from Gerard Philippe, to the cynicism of Michel Piccoli, through the coldness of Alain Delon. It's enormous. It's funny. Yeah, you're right. We can analyze it in every cinema, in every national cinema, this problem. Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry, I'm improvising. Okay, so don't take it seriously what I'm saying.
You have casted also Marian Labuda or Jiří Menzel, who is your friend. How would you comment on their faces?
Labuda came from Jiří. It was a suggestion of Jiří Menzel. And Jiří came from me, because I asked him to come and visit me at the shooting and take part of time. As he invited me to be in his film, so we made fun. With the money of the producers. Yeah. I'm sorry, please repeat only the very last line, because technically I couldn't hear it. No, it's fine. No, I understood everything. Thank you. Thank you, it's fine. Yeah? So, first, if I'm inviting somebody to do a film, I have to explain why. Because the first question of every actor is, okay, fine, but why me? And I have to tell him or her why. What is so important to me concerning the message of the film and concerning the character, what he or she represents. This is very general and it's part of the politeness. Having a coffee. And when we start to work together, then maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 10 days before the shooting period, and sitting down with actors, sometimes only with the main characters, sometimes if I have the chance for it, then with everybody, even with people, they have a very small part, we're sitting around the table and we're reading the screenplay loud and we're analyzing every word. Why is this expression, this word in the screenplay, what it means, how to express? It's a process which leads 3 days, sometimes 4 days, for 120 pages screenplay. It's great because not only the character is present who is playing a role, but the people they are opposite, they're playing an antagonist, they are also there, so everybody can take part on an analysis. And it's beautiful because the people, they have different educations and the different knowledge about the thing, and the discussions are always great. This is a period in which actors, they have the right to ask for changes. They are words, they are not really good in somebody's mouth. They are good for somebody else, but not good for them. They cannot use it really good. And listening and even asking them, we are able to change. They can offer another word, they can offer another line. It's happened several times that actors ask me, okay, fine, I like this line, but what is what you would like to express with this line? And I try to tell them what is what I would like to express, and the answer is fine, but I don't need the line for it. I can show it, and they show it. So we cut the line. Or in another case, they say, what is what you would like to express with this line? I try to tell, and they say, listen, I understand what you want, but I'm afraid I cannot say this line so that I express as you like, because if I say this line, it has another meaning. Listen. So we change the line. So this is the period when actors, sometimes they're working as dramaturgs, so they analyzing everything. Having these 4 days gives actors the possibility to know everything about the character, and they can prepare themselves better. Then we start to work, and if the scene what we just shooting, having one shooting day, has dramatic elements and has conflict, then the work, the daily work, before other people are coming in, the daily work starts with a rehearsal. We try to find the way how actors, they represent the characters, try to move, would like to move, you know. I have a very precise idea. but I'm telling my very precise idea only if nobody has an idea. You know, so I prepare myself only for safety reason. If nobody has no one idea, then I can tell what I would like to suggest. But I like to ask the actor, please, this is the scene, this is the dialogue, this is your room, this is your study, this is your chair, this is your, I don't know what, bed, and how you would like to move with this scene. And this is your partner, what is what you would like to do. So we try to do the scene. And of course, I have an imagination and I try to move them in the way, but I don't like to start with my idea because I don't want to imprison them with my suggestions. You know, I ask them to come because I believe that they are more talented as I am. You know, so they are better. So why not to let them work free? And if it doesn't work, then I can come with my safety solution, you know? So we rehearsing, and if we have a solution, then I ask the camera people to come in and the sound people to come in and see and the lighting people to come in, because everybody has to see, you know, the movement. The boom operator has to see the movement, the focus puller has to see the movement, etc., etc. And then actors, they can go to makeup, and they have an hour time. My colleagues, they have an hour time to prepare everything. But very simple scene, cross the street or come in and say something. We never rehearse because I think it's better to do it. It's better to improvise. It's better to surprise. We have to do technical rehearsals because the focus puller has to know, you know, the final stop moment of an actor or a boom operator has to know the direction. Or the lighting people has to know which corner need light. So we have to do rehearsal, but I don't allow to rehearse with emotions. I'm asking the people only to do technical rehearsal, which means that sometimes they're speaking loud. I'm coming in, I'm sitting down, I'm show you, yes, here, I'm sitting, with this line I'm sitting down, yes, yes. Then I'm standing up, with this line standing up, I go this way, you know, until this is fine to you, fine, okay, not, tell me, fine, okay, I'm doing once again, so I'm standing up, I'm doing until, fine, okay, thank you very much. This is the rehearsal. So they learn the technical details, and if the technical details in their blood, and all my colleagues know what to do, then we can shot, and then they can surprise themselves. This is important. Yeah. It was another part of the question and I forgot. Help me. What was the last part of the question? I'm a tiny bit senile. Don't speak with old people. Yeah.
There's an on-off button on it, it should work.
Yeah. Yes?
Yeah, let's pass it.
No, tell me loud and then, yeah. What was the last part? No. Yes, I'm coming, but it is in my pocket. and 70% I'm not using it. Which is very, I'm sorry to say, which is very, very important to me. What I know and what I have to know, which part is important to show in wide shot, so to show the audience the connection between people and the connection, you know, with the background, with the area, and which is important to show in close-up. This is the most important thing to know. Doesn't matter what happened, this line will be in close-up. This is important, this is what I know. Yeah? And the close-up, for the close-up, I have to tell you an anecdote, which became one of the most important lines what I ever heard. I did 2 films with a fantastic Swedish actor who unfortunately passed away 6 months ago, Erland Josephson, who was one of the leading actors of Ingmar Bergman. For example, the leading actor of A Scene About a Marriage. And I asked him once, tell me, what Ingmar Bergman is saying to you, because you are always good, but in a film of Ingmar, you are fantastic. And not only you, Liv and Ingrid Thulin and Bibi Andersson and Harriet Andersson, you are good with every film what you did. But with Ingmar, you are fantastic. Tell me what Ingmar is telling to you. And his answer was, Ingmar tells us nothing. Only Ingmar is the only film director who knows exactly where to put the camera to show how good we are. And it's not a joke. This is the most difficult thing, to put the camera exactly on the place, to show the light in their eyes, to show how an emotion born and turned into another emotion. Because the difference between this and this, this and this, this and this, this and this is enormous. In this you don't have the light, in this you have, or opposite, I don't know. It depends from the light, it depends from the acting, it depends from a lot of things. But this is the most important thing. And most of the film directors, even myself, we want to do interesting shots, you know, to surprise the audience, to move, to be fantastic, long shots and short behind, etc. And Ingmar was, all simple, and the close-up of Ingmar Bergman shows the light in their eyes, you know. So this is what we have to learn. Yeah.
Any more questions? If not, then thank you very much for today's masterclass.
And to say goodbye, I would like to tell you another anecdote, but I learned from a great Hungarian film director, a very old man who passed away 20 years ago. But he told me his story about became a filmmaker. He was born in the Austrian-Hungarian Empire in a little town called Kassa, today Košice, and he was the brother of Sándor Márai. I think you know this name. And when he finished baccalaureate, he asked his parents to allow him to go to Budapest, to the capital of Hungary, to start to live. With some difficulties, he got this permission and went to Budapest and started to work as a journalist, and he was quite talented, so he did his job, he found a job, and later he met these filmmakers. We are in the 20s, at the beginning of the 20s, 1920. He met with filmmakers, and he started to write screenplays for filmmakers at the beginning of the 20s. And a year later, his father visited Budapest, and they had an appointment in a coffee shop called New York. Has the same name until today. It's a fantastic coffee shop. So they sat down, and his father asked, "What are you doing, my son? Do you need any help for this family?" And he said, "No, thank you very much. I don't need help. But maybe some money will be not bad from your family." And he said, "Oh, thank you very much. I'm fine." "So what are you doing?" "I'm writing films." "Don't lie to me." "But what are you doing?" "When my father, I'm not lying. What are you doing? I ask you." "I'm writing films." "Listen, I am your father, the husband of your mother. Don't lie to me. What is what you're doing for earning money?" "My father, believe me, I'm writing films." "Listen, I am only a small lawyer from a little Hungarian town from the Austrian-Hungarian Empire, but even I know that the film is made with a camera, it's not written." And it's true.